This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, and you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Oh my, yes. On this episode, we're going to chat and resolve our issues via words.
Whoa. Rather than using swords, fists, or laser guns?
Yeah, because that would be uncivilized.
And tonight is a very diplomatic episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast. My name is Chris.
I'm Phil, who also knows my lines.
And we need to work on this opening, because this is...
What?
I'm Old Man Logan, and we're going to have a talk after the show.
I told you there was lines. Did you not hear that part? Bob, I'm going to diplomatize with you now. It's okay. It's fine.
The problem is when Old Man Logan has to do the sound check when the thing starts, but it's like 20 seconds between. So I'm listening for the sound to come on, and I can't hear what's going on.
I don't think we let him do any more openings.
Wow.
Like that.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Damn it, Carl.
How's the sound, by the way?
What?
How's the sound?
Sound is good.
Good. Awesome.
Rich and buttery, I think, is the term.
Rich and buttery. Just like Bob.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, Bob, man, what's going on?
What's going on is I got to take these out of my ears because it's killing me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, proofreading, man.
You know, strangely enough, the best way to check the sound in the chat room is just to ask the chat room.
That's what I think we're going to do from here on out because, hey, don't forget, it was you who asked me to check the sound
You're
many
absolutely
moons
right.
ago.
You're absolutely right.
And now we have to do it different.
That's fine.
So, see, there was a time way back in the day when I just sat here and I did the thing and nobody ever needed to hear me talk or anything.
But we loved hearing you talk, Bob.
And then suddenly I became the star. And, I guess, if that's the way it's going to work, then...
Phil, did you get his green M&Ms?
Yeah. No. He
Good.
doesn't actually want green M&Ms. What he wants Lucky Charms, but none of the kibble, only the
marshmallows?
Only the
Even
marshmallows,
better.
baby.
He's gotta sort that shit out.
Let me try again before I actually have to edit this podcast. How's it going?
It's going well. Doing a lot of proofreading the last couple days. And prior to that, we had Fall of Magic on Sunday, which was awesome. Fall of Magic is an awesome game.
That game is awesome.
We have to play that again, definitely. No question. And I just banged my thing, hands on head. Okay. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Panda rules.
Panda rules, you know?
Panda rules.
Hands on
It's
head.
It's the Queen's house, man. It's the Queen's house.
Queen's house. For the Queen!
For the Queen. Prior to Sunday's Fall of Magic, there was some gaming at Sean Gilgore's house. He had a game get-together.
I love that I don't have to talk about this stuff now.
Yeah. Sure, you just pawn it off on me. It's all right.
Absolutely.
We're all good. Fun games. There were a lot of fun games there. Played Santorini, which is very amusing.
Game is super fun. It's a
That
very
is
abstract
clever
game. Yep.
and fun. Indigo,
That game
which
is
is like Suro with a little extra.
Oh, that's the one you picked up on Amazon,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, the
Yes.
game is super fun. We'll play it.
By the way, I hear I'm low, so you might want to bump me a little.
Oh no, he's low again.
Have you even said anything, really?
I don't know. I'm just telling you what the chat room tells me.
Did you
Okay.
not sound check him in pre-show?
I did, in fact, sound check. It sounds fine to me.
Okay.
He always seems to be a little low for the crowd at first. So,
Yeah, that's...
I gotta warm up. I gotta get
Yeah.
my thing on.
but yeah, hey, lots of games, and now there's some more proofreading going on, and looking forward to tomorrow when you know what happens.
Just don't steal Chris's thunder. Let him do that one.
anything.
You want to steal it? Go for it now.
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to steal nothing.
Yep. All right. So for those people who are not here in the chat room and can't see what's above Bob's head, you'll hear in about 5 minutes, maybe
There we go.
15 since Phil's here.
Oh, nice.
What?
You hear I didn't argue. I just...
Are you insinuating that Phil's going long?
Well, now that we've gotten that checklist off the checklist, check mark off the checklist.
Indeed.
Or on the checklist. Is that it? Are you good?
I'm good.
What's
How
going
are
on?
you?
Me. Cool. So I've been marketing this book called The Book of the Trask. I've been doing marketing for Baldwin Games for Winter Fantasy, which starts tomorrow. Which the Mad Wizard Merwin is on his way there, as is former host of the show Mark Napick, and a lot of other people. I've worked on a preliminary layout for the Dungeon World Legacy layout.
Oh, yeah.
Legacy weapon, so that's a thing that's going on.
Yeah.
Played some D&D, which was the Temple of the Beast. That's the second part of the 5 Temples of the Earth Mother adventures. We had the game night at Sean's house that that Bob already mentioned. Gilgore's house is lovely.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
It's very nice.
There, I got to play a game called Rock Paper Wizard, which is a ton of fun. I
Ton of
like it a
fun.
lot. Fun little like actual party game, but strategy game at the same time, throwing symbols at each other. Spyfall, also a very fun party game.
Yep.
Good
Oh,
stuff.
Yeah. I have that. I got to. I have to I have to unbox it and bag all the cards, like the 7 million cards that come with it.
Yeah, yeah. Played or I've been really happy with the Streets of Avalon podcast and the Hobbs and the Friends and the OSR podcast. They're both have been really well received, and they both have a lot of downloads, which I appreciate. So go, you folks out there, and for listening to them.
Yeah,
and
OSR people love podcasts
apparently, and that's what I've been up to. Phil, what's going on with you?
I don't know.
I don't know.
No. I did some work on the Dungeon World Legacy weapon. That's now I think play testable. Like you're gonna do a quick layout for me, so I don't have to bring it in Google Doc format. But that's play testable, and I'm pretty pleased with it. I actually overhauled a chunk of it over the weekend, so I like where it has landed right now, and I think it's totally playable.
Bring him up.
And
Except if I bring him up, he pings.
Okay.
yeah,
Maybe bring your mic closer to you
I
then.
don't know how much I can't.
Bring the mic up. It's low. You don't have to lean into it. You can bring it up.
I can, right? Everybody's yelling.
Technical difficulties. Technical
Everybody's yelling.
difficulties.
Can everybody hear me now? Can you all hear me now?
Oh man,
Hello?
try now.
Hello? Is it
Better.
better?
The queen says better.
Keep talking, because
All right.
people, I have to edit this thing now.
Yeah, now we
God.
got to clean up some crap around here. All right, so anyway, Legacy Weapon I did. That was good. I did not get a chance to play Swords Without Master, but I did some recording for Talking Games. So that was fun. That already dropped on Monday. And we got to play Fall of Magic. We finished Fall of Magic.
We did, in fact.
Yep.
And I love that game.
The game is fantastic.
I thought it was amazing, and I was really pleased with how the story went. And I love the game, and I love that it's replayable. Like I can tell already, like we could just play that again at some point.
Yeah, we totally should play that again at some
Totally.
point.
So I'm very pleased with all that. And then I got the PDF download for Blades in the Dark. Because
Yeah.
that came out from the Kickstarter. So I have my copy, and I'm starting to read because I'm going to try to convince Dave, Bob, and Tony that instead of playing the Hood, that they would like to play Blades in the Dark.
You don't have to twist my arm.
Because
I'm in.
it's got all the Hood-like qualities and then some.
Yes, that is true.
It's got project clocks and working your way up the criminal ladder, and
It's got mechanics.
yeah, it's got a few more mechanics than the Hood has.
Instead of just like one, it's got a several.
Yeah, so I really do actually want to play it. So I'm starting to read that, and I read a bunch of comics the last couple days. I read like a run of Wolverine. I read Avengers Forever, which was really interesting. It's like a whole story about Kang the Conqueror and Immortus, and it ties back through, like, if it was a role-playing game and I was a player, I would stab this GM in the face. The basic premise is
Wow.
the basic premise is like Immortus has been like dicking around behind the scenes with the Avengers forever. Like, because he's been trying to keep humanity safe and he has to keep the Avengers out of space. That like all these things, like it's a big retcon. Like somebody took like a whole bunch of Avengers history and like retconned it and was like, oh, but Immortus showed up and like did this and did that. And it's like, if I had a GM who told me that as a reveal in a game, I would stab them in the face.
In the face.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's seated well, it's not so bad.
Possible. But it was a lot. I mean, it was clear like this was just like, hey, we're going to make a 12-issue series. And basically it's just about how like Immortus is, dicked around with the Avengers all through history. And somehow Rick Jones is the embodiment of all human potential or something. It was a bit out there.
So what I'm hearing is that this is not a very good book to go and look at and use as a reference for how to run role-playing games.
Not for a role-playing game. It was actually a really good story. It was a really good story. They pulled Avengers from different time periods, so you get like Yellow Jacket while he's still kind of crazy. But there's like the Wasp from like the 90s, so she's like already been through the whole Yellow Jacket thing.
Oh, great.
Captain America like totally disheartened and broken after and I don't remember in the actual canon.
Is it
but-
post Civil War?
No, it goes way back. So it was like sometime in the 80s, somebody like killed themselves in the Oval Office or something. But I don't
Oh, okay.
remember that storyline. But anyway, very interesting. I digress. We can get off comics and move back onto
Sounds good.
role-playing game stuff. I also have been just kind of turning the gears, getting encoded stuff working and aligned so that we can get our publication stuff done, and doing my little part for getting everything ready for the Trask.
Yeah, which ends up being like one of the most important parts because it's like, here, put it on the store.
No, actually, John did that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, John did. It's great.
Yeah.
No, but I got like the banners. I got the promotional stuff going on drive-through
Very
set
cool.
up. So why don't you tell us?
You want to go to the announcements section?
Why don't we do that? Why don't we just get right into it?
Cool. We're going to do a few announcements now. So, first off, the archive. There's an archive for Misdirected Mark Productions, and it's mostly just for Misdirected Mark, the podcast at the moment, so all the shows are there. Second thing, the mega feed, and this is the last time I'm saying this, the mega feed is going away. Phil?
Warning: evacuate the mega feed. Please follow the lit path on the ground to one of 5 exits: 2 in the front, 2 over the wings, and 1 in the rear.
So, the mega feed will actually still be there for a little while, because I realize, like, people might want to download this podcast off that, but I'm not putting anything new on it. There is no more new podcasts going to the mega feed after today. This is it. No more. Just saying. And then I'm just going to turn it off at some point. So there's that too. I don't know when that is going to be. Probably not too far away from now.
So this weekend, I did the responsible thing and downloaded the OPML file.
Did it work?
It did.
Good.
I uploaded it. So it worked fine. I had to go through some ridiculous hijinks for my phone to find the file.
Okay, that's
Like I had to like hack NORAD on my phone.
that's not my fault. I
No,
can't
that's
do
not
anything
your
about
fault.
that.
But as soon as it found the file,
Uh-huh.
up came all the feeds, and then as soon as I subscribed to the ones I wanted, down came all my down came all the new episodes.
I believe that was Mycroft, so thank you, Mycroft, for,
Yeah.
for giving me
Although
that.
the OPML file does not have
Hobbs?
Hobbs and Friends.
It does not.
Okay, so just for people to know, you can download the OPML file, but if you want your OSR deliciousness, you have to go subscribe to that one.
And Hobbs and Friends will still appear for one more episode on the Misdirected Mark feed. I've been putting it on the Misdirected Mark and
Yes.
the Down with D&D feed just to get it out there.
And then you'll peel it off.
And then I will peel it off, so it will not appear there anymore. So go and get that podcast if you want to get that podcast.
Absolutely. I got to go give that a listen.
It's really enjoyable. I quite enjoy it. The guys on Gaming MBS talked it up too. So thank you, Gaming MBS gentlemen. I appreciate it. Next thing, the Book of the Tarrasque is coming out tomorrow,
I can't believe.
February 1st. Can
Everybody
you
start
feel the
shaking.
rumbling? Can you feel the rumbling? The Tarrasque is coming. The World Ender beats its claws into the ground.
Holy shit, is this thing awesome?
Yep. If you
It's
can't see it,
gorgeous.
it's right there above. If you're watching the feed, you can see the title of it above Bob's head.
It is fantastic. It is a gorgeous looking book. The cover is amazing. Ed Greenwood did the forward, and when the page, you can go to the Encoded. You can go to Encoded now and see the product page.
Yep.
You can see all the amazing quotes we got from various D&D luminaries.
Yep. My favorite one is from Shannon Applecline, who thought the history section was quite comprehensive.
And that's saying quite a bit from Shannon Applecline, who did the Designers and Dragons book series on the history of role-playing. So yeah, it's so listen, if you are listening on the live chat, it is going up for sale. Is it tonight, or are we going to launch it? Are we going to launch it?
No, we'll launch it tomorrow.
It's going to go for sale tomorrow morning, and it'll be available for download on DriveThruRPG, and you can get it there. And it basically, in a nutshell, teaches you. It has everything you need to run the Tarrasque as a adventure or a campaign, and pretty much everything you need to know about what to do when your players come up with the craziest harebrained schemes to kill the Tarrasque.
Yes,
John's
absolutely.
John's got contingencies everywhere.
Yeah, so that's the Book of the Tarrasque, man.
Well, don't downsell it. It's also got an adventure in it, right?
I did write an adventure for it.
You
for
did write
level
an adventure for it.
For level 15 to 20 characters. So like if you have a character that's from level 15 to 20, it plays in there. You have to just do a little adjusting here and there depending on what level they are. Writing high level D&D is tricky.
I would, and that's 5th level, high level D&D. Imagine if you were writing for like 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we're very excited. If you follow us on any social media tomorrow, we apologize in advance.
Yeah, we're going to be blowing this thing out all over the place.
You're
Little
going
bit.
to see it everywhere.
All right, Book of the Trask, February 1st, tomorrow. Fantastic. Please buy it. We'd appreciate that. Or at least share it out. Let people know about it if it's not your cup of tea. All right. We have a sponsor, an advertiser. And this is for the 100 Dungeons Kickstarter. So the 100 Dungeons Kickstarter is a Kickstarter Make 100 project to build an old school 100 level mega dungeon. The Make 100 idea is simple. It's just launch a Kickstarter project in January featuring your ideas as limited edition rewards capped at 100 backers. Then share your project live with them on the Make100Kickstarter.com email address, and they will feature it somewhere in there. So that's the idea behind the Make 100, if anybody was curious. This particular one, it is, like we mentioned, it's 100 level mega dungeon. There's also a backer level called the Dungeon Builder backers that are capped at 100, and those backers will have a chance to suggest art, items, layouts, and even story scenarios for the dungeon. Plus, you get your own versions of all of the art in vector and non-vector forms. So you have all of the art assets that you can use. So it's really great for publishers because it's not just a private, it's also a commercial license. That's pretty sweet. The 100 dungeons will feature an optional overarching storyline that is weaved throughout all 100 levels of this mega dungeon for an adventure that will take years to complete playing. Phil, have you ever played a mega dungeon?
I have not. I mean, my largest dungeon experiences were back in the 80s with the TSR, like the multi, like the D series, the G series. Like, I actually played the G series, the D series, and Q1.
Uh-huh.
The Giants, the Drow, and the Queen of the Demon Web Pits. That's
a pretty big dungeon.
It is, but
string.
I mean, when I think mega dungeon, I think of the world's biggest dungeon and those things where it's one structure.
Yeah.
But it's like a bajillion levels.
So I think of Temple of Elemental Evil as a pretty huge dungeon. Like White Plume Mountain is another one. I mean, it's not a big book, but it's kind of a huge dungeon. It's not a mega dungeon, I guess, but there's one called Rappin' Athuk from Frog Guy Games. I've run chunks of that, like the first 3 levels of like that 17 level gigantic monstrosity. I've also played part of the world's largest dungeon. I don't like it. The world's largest dungeon, not really great.
The world's largest dungeon is kind of a stunt, right? The idea was we're going to put every monster in the SRD inside this dungeon.
Correct.
Yeah.
Bob, what about you?
I have not played any of the really huge ones. In fact, I have not played many of the bigger classic ones either. Temple of Elemental Evil, never played. But yeah, there's something to be said about, the sprawling,
gigantic
expanse,
dungeons.
like, holy crap, we got to get through that. All right, let's buckle down.
So if you're a person who loves dungeons or loves mega dungeons, I would suggest checking this out. And like I mentioned before, if you're on the dungeon backer level, you get all the art in vector format. So you can just plug and play, drop this stuff into your Roll20 games, all kinds of stuff like that. So if you like playing games online and you're looking for art assets, this stuff is great. The gentleman named Michael, who is in charge of this project, he's been a graphic designer for 20 years. His stuff looks amazing. I would suggest heading over to the Kickstarter right now, or use the link in our show notes. And if not, search for the 100 Dungeons project and tell them that Misdirected Mark sent you over there.
There you go. Awesome.
All right, let us get on to the main part of the show.
Access granted.
Phil, we're in the garage. It's been a while.
Yeah, this place is a little dusty.
Yeah, a little dusty.
It's all right.
I didn't get a chance to clean. I've been busy.
No, it's my. I mean, I brought this room into the house. I should take responsibility for keeping it clean.
Although we should probably pick up the wrenches that got knocked over because there's a Tarrasque running around.
Yeah, the Tarrasque has shook the house to no end. As soon as we can get him out of the house and onto drive-through, I'd feel a lot better.
Tell him he's meeting somebody for lunch.
The third floor is making some really weird noises.
Well, you see, Joe was trying to meet Phil for lunch at one point in time, but we just kind of, and all of us really, but we just kind of tricked him to coming here because we have an extra dimensional prison and space here. So that's where we're holding him for the moment, but he's trying to break out.
I'm a little nervous when Joe says he wants to have lunch.
Yeah.
The connotation, I'm not sure which.
He might just want to eat you.
Correct.
That could be a thing.
I mean, I know he has AC 15 inside of him.
Yeah, that's true.
You take a lot of continuous damage.
That's also true.
I saw that.
So really what we're talking about here is social mechanics in the garage. We wanted to chat about those things.
Those social mechanic-y things.
So, Phil, would you please define social mechanics for us?
I would be happy to. All right, social mechanics. So we're talking about the group of mechanics that adjudicate the actions of a social nature between PC and PC, or a PC and an NPC. These are like mechanics that determine how communications played out, especially if one or more parties are desiring something.
Yes, yes.
So it has a lot to do with getting stuff.
Exactly. Because otherwise we're just conversing, right?
Yeah, otherwise we're conversing. We don't need mechanics to converse.
Correct. Now, would you please break it down for me, Mixmaster V?
Thank you. All right, so
Oh, get a second one. You totally get a second one. Go ahead.
we're just
You want to go three's a charm?
sure.
Do it again.
All right, great. All right, so how do these things work? So, social mechanics are typically skill checks, right? Like, there's not any. They usually don't have, and I say usually because as soon as I say that, somebody online is like, no, that's not true. There's ... Yes, I know.
90% of games use them as some sort of skill check.
Yeah, they use them typically as skill checks, or attribute checks. Like maybe it's like a charisma or something like that. But typically, we have some skill checks. They very rarely very rarely codified into anything else than a collection of social skills. And you don't get anything like a to hit bonus or like a CMB or anything like that. Like there's no secondary combat attributes around social mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then there are the set of rules that determine how you're going to influence another character. And there are different approaches for how we can influence.
Yes.
So we can do the persuasion, fast talk, or lie. Right? Like we just need somebody to believe what we're saying.
Yes.
We can do intimidation and fear.
Yep.
That's where we are using either physical or mental presence to make someone bend to what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've dominate and control, which is my favorite. And that is just flat out getting people to do what you want.
Yes. And all of these things are basically what you said before, trying to get someone to do something for you.
Yes, in one way or another. And so the approach is often in social mechanics important. How you achieve your goal is important because it will often determine what skill is going to get utilized.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times that's why, which we'll get into this, but why games often have a hard time handling this mechanically, because it's hard to write a rule set that is that versatile for the conversation part of the game. Because a lot of people think, one, if we're talking to each other, we should just be able to talk to each other. In fact, John Wick will tell you that, like, if we should just talk it out and figure it out
absolutely.
yourselves. But yeah, that is, and the other thing is that there's so many different results and so many different situations that this can come up in. It's not the same as like I hit it with my sword.
No. So it's hard. Now, some games do codify this into a combat-like system.
They do, in fact, which I
We'll
guess
get to.
yeah, we'll talk. In fact, why don't we just talk about games that use them?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
So let's start with the one that is the most popular role playing game on the face of the planet, Dungeons and Dragons.
Sure.
The 5th edition version of the game. So there are two things in this game that relate to social mechanics, aside from the dominate part, which is magic. I'm not going to talk about magic because there's the charm person.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
There's the dominate person. There's the magic type stuff that can make someone do something or influence someone against their will to do something.
so you're saying that charm person and dominate are two separate spells?
They are, in fact. Well, if you charm someone...
No, I'm getting it.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm getting it. I just the game's going up a few points in my book. Okay. Anyway,
They always kind of have been. It's like nobody interprets that spell
I
correctly.
never play wizards.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So in D&D 5th edition, there is a thing called the charm status. It is a condition in the game. When you are charmed, the charmer has advantage on ability checks to interact socially with the creature. So they won't automatically do whatever you want them to do. You just have advantage on your checks.
Yep.
And the charmed creature cannot attack the charmer or target the charmer with harmful abilities or magical effects. It's because they're friends. The idea is that they're friends with them at this point.
I mean this particular status in D&D comes from a history of age-old arguments that date back to the late 70s of what can you get a charmed creature to do?
Correct.
I mean, many a fight in my youth was centered around this argument.
So the nice thing about the charm status, the charmed condition, it's not necessarily magical. You can actually just apply this condition through conversation, through situation or through skill checks, because it's not intended to be a magical condition. It just means that you're friends or friendly with the person.
Sure. Now that like totally works for fast talk,
Correct.
right? That's a function of persuasion.
Yep, that's what a grifter usually does.
Yeah.
Then the 3 skills that go along with this in the game are persuasion, deception, and then insight, because insight's the way often to defend against these things.
We'll talk about that when we talk about how the mechanic actually works.
Correct.
But yes, that's
So,
very good.
Persuasion is like diplomacy or being kind to someone. Deception is lying to them.
Yeah.
There's like a gray area there.
There is a bit of a gray area. Persuasion, and again, in social mechanics, intent is often the purpose. So persuasion can be anything from persuasion can be like, I'm making a impassioned argument to you. It is a factual argument, but I am trying to persuade you that we should, get on this boat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where deception, is more like, here, BA, drink this milk. Like, I ain't getting on no plane.
I ain't getting on no plane, Hannibal.
So that's D&D. Let's talk about a game that is actually very close to the classic example, the 90% of the examples that we're talking about.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. We're gonna find that a lot of mechanics kind of get to this place.
Yeah. Now let's talk about a game that is completely different from that.
Sure.
Drama system.
Yeah.
Hillfolk. This system uses the petitioner and grantor system. So that is a token system used to represent the power to sway what is going on in the narrative. By granting things, you get tokens, and by refusing, you give tokens. And if you have a bunch of tokens, you can actually pay things off to not have to do what you are told to do.
Right. So in
Or
drama
to make someone do something.
So in drama system, you're not rolling dice. So what actually happens is, in drama system, we would have a scene, and I would need you to let me store some crates in your warehouse.
Yes.
Okay, so Biker Phil, right? Because this is like our Sons of Anarchy style game.
Sure.
Right?
I love it.
Okay, so Biker Phil comes up and is like, "Hey, boss.
Yeah.
I got these boxes on this truck, and I need to just hold them for a few days. Like, can I keep them here?
What's inside them?
It's probably better you don't ask. Like, it's cool. I mean, they just need to be here for a couple days, and I promise I'll move them out. I give you like $1,000 if you don't mind me renting some space.
Sure.
Okay.
You can stay. You can keep them here.
Right. So in that case,
You would give me a token.
exactly. I give Chris a token because Chris did what I wanted.
Now I could say no,
Right.
and then I would give you a token.
Right. And so I'm screwed. Right. So I got to go do something else now.
Now let's take this up a notch.
Right.
with the
So now
rules.
I have a bunch of tokens.
Correct.
Okay.
You could actually give me 2 tokens and make me do it.
Right. I could just slide 2 tokens across the table and be like, listen, you're going to take these boxes, you're going to hold them for 2 days, and I'm going to give you $1,000 for your troubles, and you're not going to give me any shit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There.
And then I would take the tokens.
Now, the difference with that is there's no roles, and players have, and we'll get to this a little more when we dig into the mechanics, players have free will to say yes and no, but the token system ensures that at some point you can't say no.
Correct.
You just can't be like a jerk and stonewall everything. And if you want to get tokens, you need to grant people's requests. So it's an economy system.
Yep. And there's actually a mechanic in there, like if somebody forces you to do a thing, that thing is actually true for a very long time.
Yeah, you don't get to worm your way around it. It just becomes a thing.
Without something in the situation really changing a lot,
Right.
you can't actually approach that thing that is true anymore.
Right. It's a really smart, simple mechanic for addressing that specific problem.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's really good. It creates that very much a CW type drama game.
Can I say this about Robin Laws as a little side note?
Sure.
So this is the thing I love. I love a number of things about Robin Laws, but one of the things I love about Robin Laws as a designer is that he specifically designs games to solve certain problems. So Gumshoe was designed to solve the flow of information in an investigation. And Drama System was designed to solve the problem of I need you to do a thing for me, and you just stonewall me, and you're like, I'm never doing it, haha.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's a game that's built around you can't stonewall me forever. Like, you can't. And it's in your interest to not stonewall me because you will get more narrative leverage if you accept my offers.
Exactly. So you actually start picking and choosing your spots.
Right. He's really smart about these things. Like he's really smart about finding a problem and designing a game that solves that problem.
And creating a way that it creates narrative flow.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure.
Right. Let's talk about Fate.
Yes.
Hit me up.
Fate's got a lot of shit going on here.
It really does. Because every conflict system is a chance for social conflict.
I'll talk about this a little more when we get to the end of
social mechanics.
End of the session. But Fate does not treat social interactions differently than it treats physical interactions.
That is true.
So all the mechanics that apply to things like jumping from rooftop to rooftop or fighting punching a Nazi.
Yep, punching a Nazi.
Punching a Nazi. And having a car chase.
Did punching a Nazi ever go out of vogue?
No,
Okay.
It hasn't. It never went out of vogue. Savage Worlds was basically founded on punch a Nazi.
In the face.
Yeah, punch a Nazi
Just
in the
sprinkle some Nazis on there.
That's exactly. Nazis are like sprinkles.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's nice about Fate is that because the system treats both of those things the same, all the mechanics of Fate work at a social mechanic level. So skill checks using overcome and create advantage. You can totally have like that charm effect. I can use my whatever, depending on what your flavor of Fate is. I can use my persuasion skill to place a charmed aspect on you.
Correct.
And then I can leverage it mechanically to get something else I want. I can use an overcome to fast talk my way past a guard.
Mm-hmm.
I can get into the conflict system because Fate has a mental stress track as well as a physical one. We can actually get into an argument in Fate and actually fight.
Yes, and have actual...
And take somebody out.
Yep.
You can be taken out in Fate verbally.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is that it has to adhere to the narrative situation. So it's not like you can kill somebody by taking them out with verbal...
But you can take them out.
Yep, and then you can make them feel bad. You can give them terrible consequences.
You can shame them into leaving town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there's contest. The contest mechanic, which is often used for like a running race, can actually be used to argue a point. Like two people arguing in front of a group of people, like follow me or follow him. And you can actually use that contest mechanic to have kind of a back and forth debate where ultimately the group makes a decision based on who wins that.
Yeah, and there are a bunch of Worlds of Fate adventures out there that have their own spins on this kind of stuff. We don't have the time to go into all of them, but
like a whole show that could be dedicated to that.
Yeah, there are some of these Worlds of Fate that are predicated on this social manipulation and social conflict.
Yeah, so I mean, when we get to the end, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But Fate, to me, is probably one of my favorites when it comes to this kind of stuff.
It's really good. It covers a lot of other things.
Yeah.
So Cortex Plus is another game. It's very Fate-like, and I'm specifically talking about the Smallville game. So Smallville, I've only been able to like read through this stuff a little bit, not comprehensively, but it's fascinating. So it's got a contest in it, and it's kind of like Fate, where you have these opposed roles and whatnot. But the game has attributes like duty, glory, love, truth, things like that, instead of like physical attributes, because these are super powered people. So that's how they balance them against each other. It's not about what they can do; it's about what they care about.
Right.
They also have relationships with tags tied to them that are like aspects. So you can use those when you're dealing with certain people, because that's how the game ties people together. So you actually have dice that tie you to other people, and you have dice types. So you have more or less influence over them based on the dice type that you have.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And you use that stuff plus like attributes, or plus like resources and assets to build these dice pools, because it's that Cortex Plus mechanic where you build two dice pools and roll against each other. I don't know if you've ever played Cortex.
I have played
like the old version, not the new version, right?
Yeah, I've played the olders, not the new ones. I know the mechanic because I've dabbled in a little bit of Marvel.
So you do that thing. You use that dice mechanic, and then the stress though comes in the form of like angry, exhausted, insecure, injured, and afraid. So you can become stressed out also, but you start taking dice that get up in levels based on those ideas. So it's got a little bit of that mouse guard type thing in there.
Oh, yeah.
But the dice types increase until you get taken out. If you go over a D12, you're stressed out, and then you actually choose, instead of having your opponent choose how you get stressed out. But you can no longer roll dice in the scene or spend plot points in the scene.
That's good.
So that is how those social conflicts work in that game. It's really interesting, especially because of how the relationships between people have dice attached to them. So you actually have more or less influence over people. So that's how that works. Dungeon World, the parlay move.
Yeah, right. I mean, how would we not have a garage where we didn't talk about Dungeon World?
Do you know
somewhere?
this is my favorite social mechanic move in any game? This is my favorite social mechanic in any game
Okay.
because it's simple and you can apply it to every other game. I love it. So the first thing is that you need leverage on your target to even make the roll.
Right. You got to have a reason because narrative. You got to have narrative before you make a move.
Correct. And it even states like if you don't have leverage in some way, shape, or
doesn't
form,
work.
it doesn't work. And now leverage could be a lot of things. Leverage could be love. Leverage could be
A sword to the guy's head.
correct. You know, a threat, whatever it is. But as long as you can clarify that you have some sort of leverage, then you actually have a
Right.
context for it.
Corin. The presence of Corin on your side is
That
is
could be
leverage.
considered leverage. Yes. Then you make the roll, and if you get a 10 plus, you get they'll do the thing for you. If you get a 7 to 9, they need some reassurances or they need a promise from you, or you need to do a thing for them first.
That's actually, you're right. 'Cause, I mean, this is an actually fantastic move because that 7 to 9 means you're just going to get tangled up with like, it's never good.
Yep, it creates extra complications.
I believe that on a 7 to 9 is how we let what was his name? Was it the Destroyer? Our friend the Destroyer? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, our friend the he was the wizard that
Right.
was like dead.
We let that guy loose because we needed information from him and we got a 7 to 9 and the deal was I'll tell you what you need to know, but I want out from the airy peaks.
Yep.
And we were like, sure, why not?
Yep,
Like,
because you rolled
we
7
all
to
knew
9.
that was going to bite us in the ass, but we like really needed that information. So we're like, sure, go ahead. We'll let you loose. Don't
Yep.
get in any trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Major land war later.
Yeah. Now, I didn't mention. I'm going to mention Burning Wheel and the Duel of Wits right now, but we're not going to talk about that because I would like to take a whole episode to talk about how Duel of Wits works at some point when I actually read it.
That's fine. I will say briefly that Duel of Wits treats the art of arguments or debate like a combat mechanic, and it actually bears a lot of similarities to its actual the Burning Wheel combat mechanic for man-on-man fighting.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. I've done it once. I played a Burning Empires game at Gen Con one year, and we actually got to do the Duel of Wits, and my side lost. And we had to go, we had to abide by
What happened?
the stakes that were present, and it got us all killed.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And we all knew it. Like, we were all sitting at the table when we lost the Duel of Wits, and we're like,
We're dead.
well, no one's getting out of this session alive. Like, that just happened.
Not in any way, shape, or form.
Nope.
All right, let's take all that stuff that we just talked about all these games and boil it down into usable stuff for people. Would you please boil it down for me?
Sure. All right. So most oftentimes, these mechanics are some sort of opposed roll.
Correct.
It'll depend on the system, but oftentimes,
They're always some sort of opposed situation.
yeah, I mean, you're either going up against the DC, but a lot of times you're actually going up against another, the player's other skill.
Mm-hmm.
The aggressor selects a skill based on their approach. So this can be, this can be deception, this can be persuasion, etc.
Yep,
Provoke is
Yep.
a skill in Fate.
very much.
The defender selects a skill that equates to their emotional defense. Now, most games just have one. So in Fate, it's empathy. In D&D, it was insight. You might have multiple skills that allow you to attack, but almost always there's just one defense.
Sometimes it's will and fate,
Sometimes it's will. Yeah.
because provoke is usually opposed by will.
Yeah. And then empathy, I think, is deception or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you roll, and then we look at the outcomes. High roll wins. And then often the outcome of that, so whether it's one roll or multiple rolls, the end result is that some sort of condition or effect, narratively or mechanically, is placed onto the character.
And sometimes both.
Sometimes both.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
that is an
that's-
exceptional breakdown of what just happened.
Thank you. That's the thing, right?
All right, so let's talk about the play experience that these kind of mechanics create.
Yeah.
They allow our characters to simulate being more witty or persuasive than we actually may be in real life. They give us a chance to actually have those moments.
Because if you want to play Danny Ocean, like,
I'm not Danny
I
Ocean.
can't pull off George Clooney.
No,
right? Like,
man.
I mean,
I also
the
didn't.
Ocean is
I also didn't have somebody to write that script for me either.
right. That's the thing, right? Like we want that in our role playing game. Like we want the super slick, fast talking, suave kind of character. We're not often those people. Now, I think this is exactly the same as what combat systems do, right? Like, I can't swing a sword and cut a guy in half.
Correct.
But I can, but my character can.
Yep.
Yeah, so it performs that function for us.
Yeah, and we can all work together if we want to play the game this way, right? We can all work together at the table to be like, well, what does that look like after we make that roll? Or we can even like ask a little bit like, so what is your approach that you're going for, and then use that as the fictional basis for what happens with the roll.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where, and it's perfectly fine when we do this in combat, and I've had people complain, like some people get twitchy about this. In combat, it's perfectly fine to say like, I take my sword, and I'm going to go with a very like aggressive attack approach. You know, lots of like I'm going to rain blows down on him while trying to push him back, and then we roll and we see what happens. We can do that same thing in a social situation, right? I can say like, I'm going to use like a lot of really big technical terms to confuse the person, and then at the point of confusion, I'm going to insert the request I want so that they'll comply. But sometimes, and I'll just say this, sometimes GMs harp on this and are like, no, you have to actually talk out the whole scene. I don't think that's necessary.
It's not.
It's okay, but here's the thing. If I'm a plus 18 at persuasion, I should just be able to say like what my approach is, because I'm not a plus 18 in persuasion in general.
Now, if we want to know what actually happened in the scene,
right,
then we can have a conversation about that.
Yes.
But we don't have to play out the conversation.
Right.
If we're not like, we can actually say, well, these are the things I was going for. These are the things I the way I kind of say it, and I dupe him somehow. Like, let's figure out how that dupe looks.
Right. Now, I've done the thing where I'll just like, we'll do the roll and then we'll see what the outcome is. And then I'll just tell the player, like, start talking. And no matter what they say, like, I abide by the roll.
Yeah.
So, like, if their roll was really good and what they're saying is like, I need you to open the door, or whatever, like, then I'll just be like, oh, of course, sir, you know, and and open it up. But I don't always need that.
Yeah, you don't.
Because I don't need it in combat. I don't make my players stand up and show me how you swung the sword at him. Like, we don't do that.
I mean, I'm a big proponent of the idea of, fiction before you roll.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't need in-person fiction. I just need to have a basis to work off of.
This is the thing about you and I, right? You and I are both very comfortable first and third person.
Yeah.
Like, I can very much be my character, and I can very much pull back and play my character a step back.
I can even do it in second person sometimes, and I do.
Right.
Start narrating from somebody else's point of view, my character's actions. It's great.
So yeah, I mean, just as a quick aside, because we like asides from time to time. We did this. You and I both do this. We did this in Fall of Magic.
We did.
And,
yes.
Like, Bob doesn't.
Bob was like, I played in first character the entire time.
Right,
I'm awesome. I'm like, you're a jerk. Just to point that out.
Right. Bob's like, but it is. I mean, it's very different. Bob played first person the whole way through. I like that. Those were all his sentences.
Like, one time I caught myself and I said, Harp does, and I went, no, I do this.
Right. Chris and I are like in and out of both of us are like in and out of the character. Right. I mean, it's just a play style kind of thing. But I'm very comfortable when we get to complex social mechanics to pull back to third and just be like, this is what my character does.
Yeah. I guess the idea behind the mechanics are, if they're supposed to be the framework to hang story on, if that's the point of the game, and a lot of these role-playing games are like that. Some of them aren't, but a lot of them are. Then without that understanding the approach, or at least a little bit of what's going on, you can't hang anything on it, because then we don't have a shared vision. But that's a completely different subject.
Yeah, shared vision, magic circle.
Yep. All right. So misdirected mark, word scramble. What other things do these do?
Yeah. What else do they do? All right. So they allow us an option outside of violence.
Correct.
So we can accomplish things in the story without always having to stab something in the face. And that's good.
Yeah, because it can provide a different kind of beat to enjoy in your play.
It provides a different kind of a beat. That's excellent. Two, it allows us to have games that aren't just about combat.
True, and it makes the bard not suck.
makes the bard not suck. Which
Bards don't suck anyway.
Bards don't suck anyway.
please go to episode 150 and find out why bards don't suck.
That's almost 100 episodes ago.
Wow.
That's almost 2 years ago. Just throwing it out there.
Character
Wow,
cast.
has
Brett
it really
Bardigan.
been that long ago?
Brett Bardigan.
Damn.
Badass Bard. Okay.
It also helps, and I'll tie in a Panda episode, Panda's Talking Games episode. It also helps in low level play. Because in low level play, your ability to parlay with those goblins to get past them may be better than taking them on and running the risk of getting killed.
It's funny when you say that because that's actually fractal. Your ability to deal with the dragon and let you walk away without eating you, even when you're 9th level.
Yeah, except that at 9th level, you tend to be more cocky about these things and are like,
Absolutely.
we got this, bro. And then like,
sure, then you get eaten by a
right,
dragon.
like let's light this dragon up.
Bro, hold my meat.
Right. Hold my mead. Watch this. But at low level, when you are 4 hit point wizard and the goblin has a 1d4 dagger, talking sometimes is better than fighting.
Well, if you're the 4 hit point wizard, you should just stand in the back
Yeah.
or in the middle. I've learned this from playing BX.
Yeah. With your sand. I got sleep 1. I got 1.
Hey man, I've light.
Wow, you don't even have a useful combat spell
Light can blind people's eyes.
if you place it on them, right?
Nope,
Oh no, just
it's ranged 30 feet.
continuous light on a gold coin, and then we used to just throw them in the room and then like murder everything in the room.
Oh yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. They also make non-combat skills useful. That's the other thing it does.
Well, yeah. I mean, otherwise, what's the point of having these skills if we can't do stuff?
True facts. True facts. All right. So what problems do social mechanics cause?
So there's only one problem with social mechanics, and it's when they get used on a player.
I think there's one more problem beyond that, but sure,
Okay.
go with
I
this.
mean, the main problem.
Yeah.
The main problem is when these get turned on to a player. When you do this shit to NPCs, players have a field day, right? They talk the guard into opening up the gate, and they run like the long leverage like con, and ha 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 ha. The second a player gets fast talked out of something, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
because here's what happens. When these mechanics are turned onto a player, so either the GM has an NPC do it to the player, or worse, it's a PvP where a player does this to another player. These mechanics mess with the autonomy of your character.
See my aforementioned mention of having leverage.
Right.
Like if you can't prove that you have leverage over that person, or they don't care about the leverage that you have,
Right.
then your leverage probably isn't good enough.
Yeah. And the problem with these mechanics is that if you play them out as written and you assign, whatever the condition is, you are bound by the rules of the game to play within that condition. And I mean, this is the classic, the barbarian gets charmed and now is going to murder the party. Now,
Except they
charm
won't,
has gotten
yeah.
a lot better over the years, but
Now, if the barbarian is dominated,
correct.
that's a different story.
Yes. And then now that's a problem, right? Because the player who's playing the barbarian is like, fuck, I don't want to kill like the rest of the party, mostly.
Yeah. Well, that's because
Probably like one guy he wants to kill.
here's my huge problem with social mechanics.
Yeah.
Nobody understands how to use them because they're not ever explained very well.
I don't disagree with you.
That is like if they're explained well, then that problem that you're just talking about kind of goes away.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a lot of this where you have to kind of make this palatable for the players. There's also, listen, I agree from a GM point of view, there is a responsibility on you to make sure that the players understand the mechanic and that you do a nice job of narrating it so that it isn't so heavy-handed.
Yeah.
There's also a part of put on your big boy pants, players, and accept that same thing that you keep doing to NPCs is applicable to be done to you.
Yeah. So the thing that people always confuse about that whole charmed thing,
Yeah.
even if it's a magical effect, I'm sure that the rules are written in poor ways in certain cases, but they're just more friendly towards you. They're not going to ruin their lives for you. They're not going to destroy their own friends for you. They're just friendly towards you. They view you as a friend.
Correct. Now, for instance, I mean, we can take it down a notch because the charmed barbarian is an extreme case. But let's say that your character
Also,
has...
not how it works.
Right. Like, you're right on that one. Not how it works now.
Yeah.
Let's just say that in the past, those rules may not have been completely clear.
Correct.
But let's just say that you have a car. You actually have a car.
Sure.
And I execute a a blistering fast talk on you.
Uh-huh.
And now I have the keys to your car because you've lent it to me.
If all you were asking is to lend it to you and you gave me some sort of leverage for why I should,
Right.
then I don't see why I wouldn't lend you my car.
Correct. But it messes with autonomy in a way. And that leverage thing, let's be very clear, that leverage thing is very much a Dungeon World mechanic. That is not true in Fate.
It is not.
Fate does not have that. If I have a +4 in Deception...
I'm going to tell you you're wrong right now, and I don't mean to be abrasive in this way.
Yeah.
But no, that's not how Fate works at all, because Fate is predicated on the fiction. So until you create an advantage on that person, or they have some sort of aspect or fictional positioning to make them predicated to giving you their keys, it won't work.
Right, but if I spin up a story, because I lie...
If you spin up a story...
I spin up a story and tell you, like, oh, I got to get to the hospital because, you know, my girlfriend's sick and she's at the hospital, and oh, please, won't you let me...
Is this person a friend of mine? Do they care about me? Are they a perfect stranger?
No. Let's say it's a. Oh, you want to do the whole thing?
Well, I mean, like,
we can do the whole thing as.
this is my point about Fate. Like, it's super predicated on the fiction surrounding it.
Right. I'm saying though that you don't have to do. You can do a reasonable setup in the fiction that I can make an appealing story about needing help or appealing to the goodness in you. In fact, I'll tap your aspect that you're a helpful guy.
If I have that aspect, then yes.
Yeah.
But you have to know that first.
Yeah, and I can discover that.
You can discover that.
Yeah.
But now we can see how there's more to it than just a single
Sure.
role. Like, context is king in Fate.
Context is king in Fate. I don't know how the persuasion skill is worded in 5e. I don't know if it specifically denotes that you have to have leverage or if you just have to start talking.
I think it just says that you have to start talking, but...
Right.
But
that doesn't mean it's a good rule, because you're right. The better version of the rule is that narratively there's a compelling reason to enter into this role.
so the nice thing about 5th edition is that there is now the charm condition.
Yes.
So in order for anybody to do anything like that for you, you should probably, like, that role should give somebody the charmed condition.
Correct.
And then you can ask for stuff.
And then they're rolling at a disadvantage. They
Yeah.
could still possibly say no.
Correct.
Or I'll drive you.
Yes.
Yeah.
They can make their own... They still have autonomy and willpower. It's just
Right.
how you phrase it.
So when this mechanic is written poorly, and let's now actually
Yes,
circle all the way around.
that is fine.
When this mechanic is written poorly in a game, it is a cheap form of mind control.
Because it's dominate person.
Right. And you just need enough points in it to break it and then run around and get everyone to put their swords down while you slit their throats.
Yes.
Which is ridiculous.
And should never be allowed.
Correct.
And often the rules are, if they're not written well enough, they're usually gray enough that if you're the game master,
You should just put your hand in there and be like, fuck no.
yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Now, when they're written well, and again, I will stand actually by Fate is actually a pretty great system. The things that we talked about discovering your aspect, and then using your aspect to bump my roll to get that success with style.
That's actually a really cool situation.
Yeah.
Because the story happens there.
Right. So let me go back to the problem though. Even in the best written systems, there will come a point where you can lose, and that condition is imposed upon you to do something, give up something that you don't want to do.
True.
And that's the
Then
that's the part where I'll split it with you, right? There's a part that's on the GM, and there's a part that's like, look, players, this mechanic exists in the game.
you agreed to play this game.
You agreed to play this game. It's legit.
The roles went wrong for you. They hit every aspect of yours or every part of the mechanic to hit you in the soft spots,
Right.
to get you to do what they wanted you to they wanted them to do.
Now, I will say that in certain games, I am very okay with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, in Pathfinder or D&D, I probably would bristle at this a bit, because so much about, like, you could die, you could whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if this shit happened to me, like in Monster Hearts, I would just laugh. I'd be like, oh yeah, go ahead. You totally get the keys to my car. I'm totally fucked.
That's what strings do, though, right?
Right. Like, I would just, and same thing in Drama System, right? In Drama System, I'm like,
That's...
you know what? I'm going to hold those stupid boxes for you because I want the point, because I have a scene that I'm setting up in the future and I need some points to get it done. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot about understanding that. Like,
I saw in the chat room, GM Gerrymander, he said a good player will roll with it and play it properly, though.
Yes.
And I agree with that. And a good player will also play the game that is set before them. Like,
Yes.
if
Yeah,
those
yeah.
are the mechanics, they're
Then
going to play the
it's
game.
legit.
Yeah.
Now, a good GM can do more than just be like, look, you have the charmed condition on you. They can actually narrate it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you suddenly find yourself very compelled by what Bob is saying.
Or you can even ask the question, why do you find yourself compelled by what Bob is saying? Because that is what the die roll and the rules have
Exactly.
guided us towards.
Yeah.
Give the player the opportunity
To contribute.
to contribute
Right.
to
Yeah.
the narrative.
Because then it's not taking away their autonomy, it's just funneling their creativity.
And I think both of those things are important.
Yes,
And
I agree.
that's the only, for me, that's the crux of the problem is that you get players who sometimes get bent
Yeah,
about this. And there's no reason to be bent about it.
I agree. There's no reason.
Because if they had thought of it first and did it to the NPC, they often would just be laughing.
Yes, very good. That was really enjoyable. That section I
That
enjoyed
was
that
very
quite a bit.
organic.
It's a good breakdown.
There's some little organic work that went on in there. It's good stuff.
Let us move on to
Please.
how to leverage these mechanics in play. So, if your game has strong social mechanics, review those mechanics with your players. Figure out how they work. Explain to them how the key skills for attack and defense function in there and what they are, and get them prepared and set expectations for how they work in play.
Right. So, for instance, if you're like about to dump stat will,
Yeah, like-
you might want to like you're gonna play a political game and your character's like, I'm gonna take a +1 in will.
You know what that means, right? Like
Right.
when anybody asks you to do anything, you're probably going to do it. You're going to have aspects on you all the time.
Right.
You're going to be betraying everybody all the time because you're not going to really have a ton of control until you really want to, because you're going to get a bunch of fate points.
Right. Now that player might look and be like, yeah, totally. That's the character. That's
Yep.
the character I want to play.
But they understand then.
Right. So yeah, there's a lot of this, and I think in the past where this has fallen is that certain games seem more combat heavy, but somebody's like making an alternate character. Like when third edition Rogue came out and Rogue became equated to Skill Monkey.
Yeah.
Like somebody one day figured out, I don't need all the trap pickpocket shit. I'm going to become a grifter.
Yes.
And like, bumped up their charisma, took the feats and then blew out, all of their social skills. And everyone else is like sharpening their swords. Like at that point, it's still legitimate because you play by the rules. But what that person's done is
That game is stupid.
Well, they've pivoted the game a bit because now, like where everybody's expecting, like, well, we're gonna go in, we'll kill these goblins. This player's like, no, allow me.
Because I'm going to go adjust their attitudes.
Right, I'm gonna
because there's
go-
a whole chart and rules for how that works.
Right, and next thing you know, you're sitting down and having dinner with the goblins, and they're like drawing you a map to
Yep.
to the caverns, and then it starts that arms race, right? People are like, "Well, son of a bitch, I need that too," right? And my next character is a bard, and
That goes to the whole setting expectations thing, right? Like somebody
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to play this thing that doesn't fit into this game that we're actually intending on playing.
right,
Which, I mean, that stuff drives me crazy.
It also changes the dynamic for the GM from the perspective of spotlight time. If you've got a generally combat heavy system,
yep,
and the players are all generally combat heavy, then yeah, it's one thing to you got to throw some thief spotlight time for like the traps or whatever. But if he jacks up all this skill stuff at the next break or whatever, and then becomes the total social monkey, then it totally changes that dynamic because it's mostly combat over here, and now you've got to throw in more of the social stuff, which now everybody else has to stand around for longer.
right.
It gets,
Your
gets,
party of charisma dump stats are
Yeah, it
standing there
skews
having to
the-
suffer through those scenes. But
I
go
ha-
ahead.
yeah, I mean, I hate when games like that happen. Well, I mean, if you're a rogue, you still can sneak attack, so I mean, you're still useful in a fight. And then you can still have those beats where everybody else though, like, yeah, you can talk, but when the person that you're talking to turns to the fighter and is like, "What do you think?"
Yeah.
Like, there's things you can do,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's ways you can involve the other players. There's ways that you can stress their weaknesses and stress the rogue's weaknesses in those situations. So I mean, you can make it work. Like, it's not a big deal. It's a little bit more work. It's a little bit harder, but at least you have those options, right? People keep saying 3.5 in Pathfinder. Lately, I've been getting angrier and angrier about that.
No, I know it's kind of the easy. It's the Well, I don't know. I've used it. I've used it recently for a couple things because I wanted. We were talking about level stuff in another conversation,
Yeah.
and it's an easy system to draw on for levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's those reaction charts because you can actually adjust the attitudes of people.
yeah.
Like it's in the rules that as raw, like you can adjust
Right.
people's attitudes. I think you can still apply some of the stuff that we're talking about, but a lot of those people don't like doing that. They just want to play the game superly as it's written. Like these are the mechanics. This is why we play this game because we can push our buttons and get our responses. I often think that's why that game is so well loved. I know that's why I hated DMing it because I didn't know all the rules. I couldn't remember them all. Even when I had them all, I couldn't remember them all. Okay, I'm done. Where are we at?
Where are we at? Oh, so you also need to, as a GM, if you're going to leverage these, you need to create opportunities where it's possible to do this. Like you can't set everything up to be a fight.
Correct.
You know, you can't have every room with orcs behind barricades with bows drawn, so the second you open the door, they fire an arrow.
Yeah.
Because there's no choice. Like, you're going to be like, well, shit, we got to get into combat.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, you find an orc encampment, there's a lone sentry patrolling, and the rest of them are sitting eating. You could go murder them, or you could go talk to them.
You could.
Right? You have to create those openings. You don't have to force it, but you have to give them the idea that that's possible.
So we're talking about scenario design.
Scenario scene design. If
Sure.
you're ad-libbing my scene,
Yeah.
if I'm ad-libbing my scenes, I don't want to, especially if I'm ad-libbing them, it's very easy to very quickly take your intent and turn it into the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly you're thinking that a combat scene is probably the next thing that fits in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then your words come out so that it kind of makes it seem like combat's the only option. Now, sometimes you just get a good player who's like, well, is there room to talk to these guys?
Mm-hmm.
And then you snap to and are like, yes, actually there is.
So here's a nice little tip for that. If you're looking to beat structure your game, pick the kind of beats that you want for your game. Write down a few index cards. Look down, and whatever beat that you just had, push that index card up.
Oh, that's nice.
That way you can see what the last beat was. So you could push it up again if you want to use that, but then after that it'll be really high, and you don't want to hit that beat again. You want to hit a different beat. So you want to provide those kind of options.
So here's what I'm going to say to you. One, Robert, put a pin in that, because we should talk about that again when we talk.
Have multiple pins.
Pins for
No, we have the beat structure thing, but I want to actually talk about that thing. And then two, I kind of want to go make those.
Those cards, those
I kind
things.
of want to go make those and put them on drive-through cards.
You can actually do them with.
Ding.
You could do them.
No, don't downsell. Don't downsell. Let's make some
No,
graphics.
I was actually going to give you one better.
Oh.
You could do them with cards that we lay out that are laminated that you take a dry erase marker and you mark it off.
I would be fine with that. I
That
would
way
also
you
be
can-
fine with actually a set of cards with the beat on one side
Yeah.
and on the back like a little description or example.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good idea.
And then you could just, like you could use those for improv play.
Yeah, there you go.
Give me the
nice.
beat, boys.
Nice.
Give me the beat. Yeah.
All right, where we at?
Where are we at? We're
talking about
at? We're
leveraging.
doing
We're in there.
Yeah, we're
doing
talking
the force,
great.
right?
We're talking about we're talking about leveraging these things in play.
The last one I had on the notes here was something that we actually covered just a bit earlier. Like if a player's about to lose some sort of autonomy,
Yeah, we actually did that all in the one above.
yeah, don't jam it onto them.
Yeah.
Like, help them through it.
Yeah,
'Cause
work
it
together.
does kind of suck.
I mean, it's just like getting stabbed for like 50 points of damage.
Because that doesn't feel good.
No, getting eaten by the Trask doesn't feel good.
No, and being talked out of your +5 Holy Avenger may also feel pretty shitty.
So let's talk about some hacks and wish lists that we'd like for these kind of games. Phil, start.
Yeah, so I think my wish list is I would really like other games to have more robust social mechanics. Fate becomes my favorite example for this, in that the social mechanics section of Fate and the physical mechanics section of Fate are identical.
Yep.
And I don't lose anything by having a game where I say fight is not an important skill in this game. In fact, I'm taking it off the list.
Mm-hmm.
Like all we do is verbally spar.
Yeah.
The game is equally enjoyable because I can use all the same mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's my wish list: is give me a social mechanic system that's more than just a skill roll. Give me a social mechanic system that has the same kind of options like a physical combat system.
Yes. I'm
Give me a
with
social
you.
mechanic system that I can run an epic rack battle in.
Wow. Interesting. You know what we didn't even talk about today, and it's because it's a completely different thing? Relationship maps and how they actually affect play.
Sure.
It's probably a thing that we should talk about at some point in time because that is a kind of social mechanic,
Ding.
but it is not what we're talking about.
No,
Relationship
it's an
maps.
incredibly useful tool, and I mean, Cortex obviously has a relationship map, and I think
Well, Hillfolk drama system has a relationship
Folk,
map.
Monster Hearts. I actually made one once for a superhero game that was actually pretty interesting. That was, it was. I'll save it for a discussion. We should
Yeah.
do relationship maps. It's cool.
All right. Me personally, I'm a huge fan of that parlay idea from Dungeon World because that simple version of that mechanic can be translated to pretty much everywhere. It's not hard to translate. You just instead of when somebody fails a roll, you just choose in your head whether you want to do the 7 to 9 version or the hard move version.
Sure. Oh yeah, it's
if
very
you have,
hackable.
Yeah, if you have binary success fail in your game, just do that.
Yep.
All right.
Ooh,
Well,
that was fun.
That was fun. I really enjoyed that
Yeah.
conversation. I hope everybody in the chat room did. In fact, what is going on in the chat room?
Good conversations, man. Good conversations.
Anything for us?
Yes. Ange had a comment earlier on. Don't interrupt good role playing to make people roll dice.
Correct.
She was playing in a Smallville game that was bad, and the GM would do stuff like you're having this good scene where you're doing the role playing, and good social interaction. Roll the dice. Let the scene go until you absolutely have to.
I will also say this. I think it's perfectly fine if we're talking about player versus player, or even NPC PC. If you believe the NPC, you don't need to roll.
It's true.
Like, if I'm like, if Chris and I are two players in the game, and I'm like, Chris, I really need your car. Like, I got to go do this thing, and I'm not being completely honest about where I'm going with the car, but we're friends or whatever, and I'm like, hey, I need to go see my girlfriend at the hospital. Really, what I need to do is go pick up some drugs down at the docks. But, hey, can I borrow your car? If you're like okay with it, we don't need a roll for that.
It's true.
Yeah.
And so I think where the roll comes in is when you're like, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to push that. Like, I really want him to give me the keys to his car.
I'm making an impassioned plea here.
Now, that's not true for every system because in Powered by the Apocalypse, the fact that I start talking to you
It triggers
the move. And
it can trigger the move. It depends on
I think there's some nuance, right?
Yeah.
I agree with you. There's some nuance. But other games like D&D, like if I'm like, hey, give me your sword, and there seems to be a reason for it, and you just give it to me, we don't need a roll for that.
Yeah, in fact, we probably don't need to roll for that ever.
Right.
Like, unless you have a really good reason for me to give you my sword.
Right. And for Angela's thing, if the scene requires the roll to occur, then my tip is, rather than saying something and jarring the scene, is to have worked out with the players like a hand gesture. Like we do this when we play Fiasco, right? Like during the course of a scene,
We just slide the die.
like we have the dice, like we have the dice, and often what I do is I put like one of them on one number, like the white one like is on 2 and the black one's on 4, and I'll just hold them up to the other players, and then the other players will
They'll
like
just give the
yeah,
number.
just give
Yeah.
me the 4, and then like and then I know like once we have close to consensus, I'll just place the die out, and we don't actually disrupt the scene.
Yeah, that makes perfect
And
sense.
we used to, when I played Dungeon World with Mike, we had a thing when it was time to roll. If we didn't want to say
Yeah.
roll, it didn't really work that well. But there was just a gesture, like touching the dice. Like,
it
go
worked.
ahead and make the roll.
It worked fine until there was always until it started being confusing. Like I would roll, and then he would think I was doing one thing, and I was intending a
it wasn't
completely different thing.
Yeah, it wasn't completely fluid. And that was the first time we ever played. And I think we were a little too much into the Kool-Aid at that point of, the fiction,
Yeah.
where we learned like
Yeah.
very quickly, like it's okay to stop for a second and be like, are you parlaying or are you trying to, bamboozle?
Because you need to know.
Right.
Immersion is fine, but to me, the concept of being so deep into the immersion where you're completely not looking at anything from a mechanic standpoint ever. I don't know, it's just like
Well, why are you playing the game then? Why don't you
Yeah.
just having a pass the stick game?
yeah.
Go play some.
Yeah.
Go play some Fallen
To
Magic.
me, I think
Yeah.
it's better for those types of games to float in and out a little.
So I like
That's our levels discussion.
Yeah, I like games that I like when you can play, when you can role play out that scene and whatnot. But I mean, every game is different, right? Like where they expect you to engage the mechanics is different, so it's important to know. So I like letting scenes go if I can, but and maybe they don't even need a die roll.
Right.
But it's when there's a conflict that
And,
occurs.
and
usually.
sometimes the players know, like they have this really good impassioned speech, and then they finally stop and like look over, like,
Yeah.
can we roll now? Like,
yeah.
Is this the part where we get the? Yeah.
But I agree. Don't ham fist that
Yeah.
thing and just jump in there and be like, roll.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. One more, and then we'll move on to the next thing.
Sure.
Archmage 1 asked if there are any RP systems that give you a more elaborate social conflict instead of just a single roll.
It's called Fate.
So many systems have elaborate combat rules with a subsystem and stuff, but what about social?
Fate for certain,
It's
because
called-
you can
yeah.
engage the conflict mechanic.
Yep.
Straight up the conflict mechanic. in Fate.
The petitioner system in Hillfolk does
and
that.
the Duel of Wits
Duel
in
of
Burning
Wits.
Wheel.
Yeah. So they're
The Duel of Wits in Burning Wheel looks exactly like the hand-to-hand system, and
Yeah.
that's why it's kind of cool.
and while parlay seems like it's simple because it is simple because it's one die roll, it requires a mechanical input. It requires a fictional input in order to even trigger the roll, and then you need to have leverage. So
Yeah, and in Duel of Wits, there's something always at stake. Like you set the table stakes,
Yep.
and then you engage in the Duel of Wits.
I'm pretty sure that we didn't talk about it, but I'm pretty sure Dogs in the Vineyard does the same thing because it's got the escalation die.
And
It's got the
they're-
escalation
And
situation.
they're all in, and those two are
Kind of the same.
well, age-wise, they're not
Yeah.
kind of the same, but age-wise, they're in that same bracket.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think there's probably some cross-pollination.
All right, let us move on. The social media depository.
What was that?
That was the social media depository bumper. All of the social media dings.
Oh wow!
I had
That was-
to. I had
didn't
to.
hear it, but
Oh no!
Yeah.
It was. Oh, it's very ethereal. It's.
I had to remove the gargoyle face because they needed it back for the Tomb of Horrors book.
Yeah, it was only on loan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a.
I'm super sad.
Yeah, no diamonds, no more copper.
No,
Um,
no, just we went digital.
You know what though, listeners, if you have something that should be our new social media depository, that's something from a game or video game, role playing game, whatever, please.
Well, it can't be from a video game because that was all public domain.
Oh, well, we could just say what it was. Like we used to just
Yeah.
say it was the face.
True.
Just-
Oh, something like that. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it could, it could be like a little creature runs by and drops off,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all about that. I can find like a goblin sound. Like if we want to get Meepo down here, get a kobold sound, sure, no problem.
There we go.
Although I'm okay with kobold slavery.
I'm gonna feed Meepo to the dragon.
Kobold slavery.
No, I'm totally against kobolds. Like,
We're gnomes.
no, yes, but Corin's
that's
first
right.
friends in the Airy Peaks were the kobolds.
those kobolds were good kobolds. Though.
Those are, as long as you brought them candy, man, they knew the score.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I do love me some Muppet like kobolds.
Plus, those kobolds also knew where to get high.
That is true.
Mushroom Cavern.
They
Oh
did.
man, kobolds knew the way to
All right.
Mushroom Caverns.
So let's talk about the get healthy section. Phil, did you lose any weight this week?
I lost a half a pound.
Cool. So then our actual weight loss total is 11 pounds as a community. 11 pounds.
I will say
Nice.
this: I was actually quite relieved. I wasn't counting calories, but I was eating dinner at home. But then we went to play Fall of Magic. There were a lot of cookies,
Yes,
There
had
were a
many
lot of
and
cookies.
I ate a lot of cookies.
I
Ditto.
had like 3 or 4.
Nikki's mom has a strange formula for how to make cookies. Like, there are 4 guys coming. I made 4 batches of cookies.
There was only 3 guys.
Wow, 4 people.
There were 4 people.
4 people. I'm sorry. 4 people. Sorry, I got guys in the total head count.
It's okay.
4 batches of people and cookies, and they were all very good cookies.
Yeah, they really are.
There was not like, oh, I'll eat a couple of these and ignore these. They were like, I just round robined the cookie tray.
The good news for me was I did my way in that morning, so those cookies
Wise.
didn't count against my previous
Very
week.
wise.
But I didn't have a very good week, and I still came out a pound down. So
That's
I was
good.
very happy.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Here's the tip of the week. It's by a Thorgrit Anvilforge. I have a healthy lifestyle tip that may help cut down on some soda or pop or Coke intake, depending on where you live. Long ago, I got into the habit of, when I was up, wandering into the kitchen and grabbing a canned beverage and taking it back to my desk, couch, whatever. I knew the amounts I was drinking was unhealthy and I should be drinking water instead, but it wasn't as convenient to get a glass, add ice, get tap water, etc. So I bought a bunch of little can-sized bottles of water, a case at a time. I knew it was cheaper to get it free from the tap, but this wasn't about expense. Keeping these in the fridge satisfied my behavioral instinct to grab a thing, take it back, drink, and throw away the container. I eventually moved on to having a pitcher of tap water in the fridge and using a big insulated mug to drink from, carrying it with me to the kitchen to refill. But that first step with the cans helped me a lot. I've got another story involving vending machines unrelated to Rocker Boys, but I'll save that one for next week.
That's a good tip because all you need sometimes is that one little psychological twist
Yep.
to get you over the hump. And that was perfect. I'm used to getting the thing out of the fridge, taking it back with me, and then when I'm done, going and getting rid of it. And that's different from stopping and pouring the water into the cup. And
I mean, there was a time, Bob will remember many, many years ago, where my soda habit was
Atrocious.
all of us.
it was a 2-liter bottle.
Well, dude,
I would bring it to the dinner table.
Yeah, you were close to like 400 pounds at one point in your life.
I was
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you're way less than that now.
almost way less. I'd like to be way less.
I mean, sure, but 75 pounds less than that is pretty good.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I had that same thing. Like I drank soda. I mean, cans weren't a thing for me because I was drinking it like at the 2-liter level.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember how I got out of soda. I honestly don't remember. But anyway, I'll stop on that. The psychological part is the key to this. There are things you have to do to fake yourself out. Like I had to learn what things cost in calories.
Yeah.
To make myself believe that, and I'll tell you this right now because I'm fighting with it right now in my head. I got a bunch of English muffins at home, and I normally have with a breakfast if I cook at home. I just toast up 2 waffles. I just put like a little butter on them.
Yeah.
Now waffles are like 150 in calories. One English muffin is 130, and I keep looking at it going, I think I need 2 English muffins because they're smaller than the waffles.
Yeah.
And then I have to keep reminding myself, no, mathematically, they're the same size. Eat the English muffin.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I mean, however you do that, whatever that thing is you get over.
Man, our eyes play tricks on us all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Psychologically, you have to actually sometimes psych yourself out.
And you know what? For everybody who's in the community or comes into the chat room, if you have a thing that you want to fix, like the soda or whatever, and you can't think of a way to get over it, throw it out to everybody else, and we'll help you come up with a psychological trick to get around it.
I'll give you a quick one. If you want to eat a ton of stuff, like you want to stuff your face, popcorn.
Yeah.
Not a lot of stuff on there?
I mean, if you just get popcorn, like, you cook it on the stove. Don't get the microwave shit.
Yeah.
Like, actually make popcorn, like, with a little bit of oil.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of popcorn you can eat for the calories it costs you.
Not much.
Like, don't do this with movie popcorn. You'll fucking die. But you do this with, like, popcorn at home. You can eat like a savage and, like, only blow, like, 150 calories.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Next thing. Chris Shorb. I want to talk about this because this is in the same space. Usually I don't do this, but I want to do this because I thought it was important. He had 2 ideas that struck him. He first thought that maybe we should sponsor some sort of MMP power walk at conventions that we attend. There must be some cool sites to see while walk around Buffalo at the QCC, Gen Con, Origins, Gamehole Con, etc., etc. Get a good crew of MMPers together and head out for an hour walk. Why not? Could be just as fun as sitting around a table at a bar or a restaurant drinking and eating. Benefit of walking is you can cruise up and down the group and talk to different people. It's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
So if we do this at QCC, I would love to not be in downtown Buffalo. There are some better places to walk nearby.
Yeah, but I mean, we could actually.
We could tend to Riverwalk.
I mean, yeah, we could do that. That is a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like downtown Buffalo isn't terrible. Like we could walk up to like City Hall and around there, and
No, that's good. That
yeah.
area is
I mean,
nice.
people have never. I mean, it's really just down the road where the monument
No,
is.
that's true. I mean, if we picked out the right place,
And then we could walk to Riverwalk because it's like a half an hour down to. I mean,
yeah, Riverwalk. I mean, because that's pretty. That's
so
pretty nice.
in reality, we can walk out, hop on the metro, the train,
Yep.
go down to Canal Side and walk around Canal Side.
Canal Side. Sorry,
Yep.
that's where we should.
I knew
go.
where that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Now, I will say this for Gen Con, depending on which August you get in Indiana,
It could be sweltering.
oh god, that it could be really hot.
Yeah.
Like remember that one August, the one we went down, like the windows were sweating. That's not one I want to spend an hour outside walking.
Yeah, me neither.
But you know what would be a fun thing to do at Gen Con?
Huh.
It would be a fun thing if people had Fitbits to collect everybody's steps by the end of Gen Con.
That would be sweet.
That would
Like-
be awesome.
Like-
Who's in the Gen Con step?
Yeah, like a step
Like,
pool, and just
can
can
we
we hit a
do-
million steps?
Depends on how many of us there are.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like for however many, I mean, we could set a goal, and can
I
we
mean,
all
can,
get those
can we
steps?
do 1,000,000 steps? That would be. Did you say 1,000,000 steps?
1,000,000 steps.
Can we do 500,000? I think we could do 500,000.
I don't know what the
I,
numbers
I
are.
think we could probably hit 1,000,000 depending on how many people are in
It
it.
depends on how many people.
I mean, we could say something like if everybody got 10K a day,
Yeah, then it would only
then
take.
we could set the bar based on how many people we got.
Yeah.
But I think that would be fun. Like, and I don't know what we do with the winners, but you know,
Who cares?
who cares? But
Just
can
say
we,
huzzah.
Yeah.
can we get a big pile of
Frick,
steps?
I'll make a I'll put a post up on the website with all
a
the
pin
people
in
who
that,
who succeeded.
Put a pin in that, 'cause-
The other thing that Chris, because we need to
Ding.
move on. We
Yes.
need to move along. He said, I wonder if folks in the weight loss challenge want to start a hashtag WLC workout or hashtag WLC chow in photos of their workouts and food respectively. I think it's cool. I hope people start doing that. I will make a group. I'll make a thing in the G Plus community for
yeah,
it.
I approve of all hashtags.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next thing. Current Kickstarters. So, Dusk City Outlaws. Dusk City Outlaws is a role-playing game of heist and other thievery by Rodney Thompson. You get to play members of 8 criminal cartels in a massive fantasy city. For those who don't know who Rodney Thompson is, he worked on the Star Wars Saga game. He worked on a whole bunch of stuff
A little bit famous.
for 5th edition before he went and worked in video games. And I
Right.
think he's still doing that. But Rodney Thompson, I think he storyfied those games more than a lot of designers before them. I think he took a lot of what people like Monty and even Mike Merles back in the Out Heroes days did and turned them more into story type games.
Sure.
So this is his game.
Yes.
He built this one from the
Yep.
ground up. It's very story centric.
It is very story centric. Has a few things I really like. Has a few things I'm like, but I watched the actual play for it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good. And what you get.
What didn't you like?
What I didn't like, because instantly, and I can't not compare this to Blades in the Dark. Okay? I mean, hell, it's called Dusk City, right? Like, it's practically Duskwall.
Yeah.
So when I compare those two, in Dusk City Outlaws, you sit and have the talking planning thing. Like, in the actual play, he, like, gets up and leaves, and the players sit around and kind of, like, you know, come up with their plan.
Yeah, but he flips a timer, doesn't he?
He flips a timer, but it's the thing about, like, we've done the shows on this, why we don't like planning in games.
Yeah.
And the thing I liked about Blades in the Dark is Blades in the Dark kind of like
It gets rid
eschews
of
that
planning.
and gets rid of the planning
So
phase.
the reason I like this game is because there's actually a timer. Like you flip
Well,
the timer.
That's the good part.
Yeah, like there is a pressure to get it done.
to get a plan done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is another clever way I've seen to deal with planning. I like that a lot, especially because it's part of the box set, and it's a box set. I like box sets.
Yes.
I don't know. Anything else bad aside from the planning?
Oh no, actually I liked a lot of it quite a bit. The dice mechanic is interesting. The dice mechanic is percentile, but then jammed in with it is some of the Star Wars advantage-y, disadvantage-y dice. So you're like rolling a percentile, plus you're rolling some advantage, disadvantage things to get some like extra story bits. I thought it looked pretty interesting, and you can actually watch the actual play. So you actually can see the game in action. The components for it look amazing. It's a box set. It's got at the higher levels you get like delicious tokens and dice and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a lot of bits on this thing, and I like bits in my games.
You do like bits in your games. All right, let's move on to the Indie Game Developer Network Spotlight. So, Dream Chaser is a game of destiny. It's a role-playing game by Pete Petrushka. The tagline is Chase your dreams in an immersive story-building game where players imagine goals and role-play characters to fulfill their destiny. So, it's that, like, all I can say is you should go look at it. Like, I've never seen a game like this before. It doesn't have a lot of things in it that I'm used to seeing. It's very much a storytelling game. It's very much in the vein of things like, Fall of Magic, stuff like that, really. So, I mean, you work together to create a mutual goal for your game, pitch ideas to one another, and choose what best fits your mood. Don't worry about how the story will work or why. If it's a good idea, just pitch it, and then the game master will help make it work together. So, like, that is how you start play, and then you get some goals together, and then you just try to make those things happen. So I would say take a look at it. It looks like a really beautiful game, too. Like, the art on the cover looks great. So, there you go.
Nice. Dig
Right.
it.
Let's do a few Patreon shout-outs before we get out of here.
Yeah, we had a little burst in patrons this
8 new patrons this month. Thank you so much. And specifically, patrons, Meek Pristavka, thank you so much. Noah Bond, Stacy Winters, and Toby Sennett. Thank you so much for being patrons of Mr. Hector
I
Mark
always love when
Productions.
Stacy's name comes up because Stacy was like a listener like
Long time ago.
Like
Yep.
100 episodes plus ago.
Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And now I just want to do this. It was mentioned before that maybe we could have some like honorary patrons at times for people who couldn't help out.
Sure.
People who've done some really good things, especially for us.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do our first special honorary patron shout out. And I don't know how many of these are, how often I will do them. I just thought it was appropriate. To Mo, the Game Father Tusino. So Mo, for those who don't know, he, aside from being the Game Father, he started and runs the tabletop podcast community on G+. And that is one of the first avenues that helped really grow Mr. Hector Mark Productions into a much, especially this podcast, into a much larger podcast with audience.
Oh yeah, and when I came on the show, Mo was very much a regular commenter and,
Yep.
and was like part of there's a lot about what Mo was doing, what we were doing, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you so much, Mo, for being our first honorary patron of Mr. Hector Mark Productions and helping pushing gaming podcasts out into the world.
I feel like we need like a Hall of Fame.
I would also like
induction.
to add, everybody send a get well
To Mo?
He had some dental work done
And
that
it went weird.
it went a little wonky, and so he's having a little difficulty with it. So.
He said he was better after today.
Was it today?
Yeah,
okay,
like they,
because I didn't get a chance.
They
to look too
pulled
much
something
today.
out of his mouth that was in the wound area, and then they fixed it. So
Ooh.
That's good.
supposedly it's
That's
better
good.
now. It's getting better.
Okay. Oof.
I mean, I guess he's off till Monday, but
Oh, rest well then.
Yeah.
Rest well, my friend.
Yeah.
all right. Now we're going to talk about a podcast. This one, in fact.
My name is David,
And my name is Jason.
and this is Discern Realities, a Dungeon World podcast.
So, Discern Realities is a Dungeon World podcast. It's the Gauntlet's podcast magazine focused on Dungeon World. And here's the breakdown for what is inside of an episode. So, the first segment is What Happened Here Recently, where they discuss something about the game, such as character, death, and house rulings, such as Last Breath.
Can't pause you for a
House
second.
ruling, Last Breath. Yeah.
For people who are not familiar with Dungeon World, Discern Realities is a move. And the section headers that Chris is talking about, what happened here recently, and the other ones he's about to mention, are the questions in the Discern Reality move. So
Correct.
there's like a little play here
It's
that was
funny.
really sharp, which is they used the move title and then they used the questions asked as the subtitles and sections
Yep.
for the show.
So, what happened here recently is one of the things that you can choose when you roll when you get a hit.
When you get a hit.
Yeah.
Yep.
What should I be on the lookout for? Another question. They talk about cool things that are Dungeon World or Dungeon World related out in the gamosphere.
Yes.
You want to do the next one?
Yeah. What should I be on the lookout for? Which is cool things that are Dungeon World.
said that one.
You did that one?
Yeah.
Oh, where was I?
You're supposed to do what here is not what it appears to
What
be.
here is not what it appears to be. That's when they take a look around. They take a look at something around the game and a different spin. Sometimes this is they break down a particular move, or they'll talk about a kind of situation that arises in the game frequently and like how they deal with it or how they would expand it.
Yeah.
I actually like this part a lot.
I guess you didn't ask what happened here recently, which is why you read the same one that I read.
Right.
Right?
I might have been looking at the chat room.
That's true.
You kind of busted me on the chat room.
What here is useful or valuable to me? So this is a hodgepodge of cool items, moves, characters, playbooks, or whatever they happen to find. And often they have contests, and the community is where this stuff comes from.
Yeah, and it's good.
It is very good,
Yeah.
yes. And in fact, some of the times this stuff shows up in their zine, which is it's called Codex.
Codex.
Yeah, because I was getting caught on the fact that the next one's called Love.
Yeah.
It's subtitled Love because it's February. It's
Yep.
cute. I like it. You want to do the last one?
Oh, of course I do. And it's actually not the last one because they actually use
They-
one last
they
question
do
to end the
list,
show with.
yeah.
But what is about to happen is the best. It's just awesome. It is their comic strip AP. It, in fact, is the comic strip AP that kicked off their other podcast. And it is a 10-minute one-on-one Dungeon World session. It has various characters.
It features primarily the adventures of Ramshackle Crow and the Castafiel family.
It didn't for a it didn't for a while.
Well, and the Castafiel
and the
family.
Castafiel family, but it has switched because in somewhere in the series, Ramshackle Crow died.
Yep. We were all very shocked and sad.
Stunned.
Stunned, really.
I mean, to Jason and David's credit, they played the game, and that the episode where it occurs, David can't roll above a 6 the entire 10 minutes, and it just goes Jason keeps giving him one more, like, he soft moves him, and then there's
been eaten by a snake.
There's just nothing left.
That's my spoiler right there.
Yep.
You've been eaten by a snake.
Anyway, it's really good. And then finally, who's in control here is the final question, but that's actually just what they use to close out the show.
Yep, to say that it's the gauntlet and the community and all that good stuff.
Can I say something?
Sure.
This is one of my don't miss podcasts.
It's really great.
I listen to this podcast as soon as it drops. I think we all know I have a little bit of a crush on Jason's voice.
Yes, you do.
It is, and he is actually a great voice actor. When you listen to the AP segment, he has a lot of voices. I'm actually kind of jealous. Like, I do not do voices well. His voices are amazing for the NPCs that David encounters along the way.
I think you just need practice. That's all.
I do, and I just haven't actually haven't figured out how to practice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because there must be steps or something I can do. And
oh, that's right, because if you're a deliberate practice guy, just do it
I'm
at
a
the
deliberate
table
practice guy,
and
right?
get
Like,
better.
I mean, I could do it. I just have to dedicate a chunk to it. But his are really good.
Yeah.
This show is just top notch. Like, this is a show that has a specific focus about a specific game. And man, if you were into Dungeon World, you have to be listening to this show.
I agree.
And you just go get the backlog and just listen to it. There isn't a bad one in the pile.
True.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I just wanted to gush for a second because
that's fine.
Because you picked one that was like really close to my heart.
Well, I just want to say, everyone out there in listener land, thank you so much for listening to us.
Absolutely. If you are free Tuesday evenings, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, 6:45 p.m. the Queen's time.
Queenie.
You're welcome. Come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with the other listeners in the ever awesome chat room for life, where you can chat amongst yourselves or occasionally toss out a question to us while we're sitting here jabbering away on the mics.
If you cannot make it to the live show, which many of you I know can't, check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts, and take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Threats from Gallifrey, Advantage to Insight, Pandas Talking Games, Cypher Speak with Darcy and Troy, The Gnome Cast, Hobbs and Friends of the OSR, and The Streets of Avalon with the Wednesday Evening Podcast All-Stars. Man, there's a lot of podcasts.
That's a network.
Many
man.
much.
Yeah. You can also check out some of our brother and sister podcasts, She's a Super Geek, Talking Tabletop, and The Actual Play for Satanic Panic, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming MBS.
After you have listened to the show, if you would like to persuade us into doing something, you can always give us feedback. You can reach us directly by the emails, Chris@misdirectedmark.com.
That's me.
Phil at misdirectedmark.com.
That's him.
Bob at misdirectedmark.com.
That's him.
Check out our Facebook group. Hit us up on Twitter with the show handle at misdirectedmark, or catch us locally at DNA Phil, at Robert M. Everson, at The Light 101.
Uh-huh.
And of course, please come to where it all happens, the Moulin Rouge of our social community, our G+ community.
Also, maybe give a follow to Joe the Tarrasque. He's pretty funny.
Oh, you should totally follow Joe the Tarrasque. Joe the Tarrasque's going to be busy tomorrow.
He could use 100 followers. He's only at like 50.
Yeah, he could use some followers, and he's going to be a busy guy tomorrow.
So if you like what we do here on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMP. Patrons get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies by the Queenie, Senda, and sometimes some of the rest of us. Like, I have one or two that I could sing, but, maybe you should just give us money so I don't.
Yes.
And the Pandas Talking Game bonus outtakes.
Of which there are many funnies.
There are many funnies.
All the funnies.
Yep. With that, this has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of the very large Tarrasque-infested Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
We out!